Good morning, everyone. David and I are so glad you could join us on this holiday weekend. Everybody's got a 3-day weekend. Hope they're enjoying it. And of course, Monday is Memorial Day, the day that we honor all of our men and women who've made the ultimate sacrifice to defend our freedom. So we're so thankful for that. But it's a great time to garden because we've got a little extra time. Now the temperatures may be a little cool, but
But exactly, this is traditionally that weekend when we sort of transition from spring into summer. It may not feel like that so much out there, but that's sort of what we look at. So that's kind of our theme for today. We look at and say, hey, the spring, the flowering cherries, the dogwoods, the red buds, the azaleas, all the beautiful plants we have for spring bloom are kind of behind us. But like I said, it's really not quite summer. So these transition times, I think, are hugely important in the garden. So today we're going to be talking about plants that can provide color during this transition to let you know spring's not quite over yet. And then also a few little tips and chores and things you can do around the garden to get prepared for the summer months ahead. So stay tuned through the whole program. We've got just a mixed bags of things, everything from what's blooming, what needs to be trimmed, perennials, tropical plants, lawn care. We're going to cover a little bit of everything today.
A little bit of everything, and of course we will take your phone calls at the end of the show, so hope you'll stay tuned for that, for the entire show, because we've got a lot of great information for you. Just a couple of quick announcements before we begin. As I mentioned, it's Memorial Day on Monday, so we are going to close a little bit early at Merrifield Garden Center. We'll be closing at 6 instead of our usual 8, so we'll be open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Monday, Memorial Day. So come on by if you're going to a party or a cookout. Stop by and pick up a hostess gift. We've got beautiful, beautiful container gardens, hanging baskets, lots of gorgeous color. So perfect opportunity to do that. Also wanted to mention, speaking of container gardens, we have just sent out an e-blast. I hope you're on our, if you're not on our email mailing list, please join it, because we send out regularly tips, great information, specials, just things going on. So we sent out, I guess on Thursday, we sent out an e-blast, and it contained a video with Peggy showing how to plant a container garden. It's about 3 minutes long. It's wonderful. It gives you 10 steps to plant a container garden. So if you didn't receive the email, e-blast email, you can go to our website, merrifieldgardencenter.com. Look under gardening tips and advice, need to know, and then 10 steps to planting container gardens. So it's a must see. It really is great. You can also sign up to on our website to join our email mailing list. So hope you take advantage of that. And we're going to be talking about roses in just a moment. And I wanted to mention, we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, but the next weekend at our Fair Oaks location, the Arlington Rose Foundation is going to be having their 57th, annual rose show. So that's 1 to 6 on Saturday and 11 to 4 on Sunday. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So that leads us into roses.
I think that 57 years they've been doing that show.
Wow, I know.
That's older than we are.
I know.
Think about that.
Barely.
Yeah, exactly. Not. We don't get to say that too much longer, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. But that will be great to come down and enjoy the rose show. And I want to talk a little bit about roses to kick off the program day, because we're in that time, that sort of transitioning from the spring into the summertime. And right now, roses really step forward and take the center stage. And roses, everybody loves them. I mean, how can you not love them? There's so many gorgeous, beautiful flowers, so many different types of them. They've been in cultivation for such a long time. It's just a whole world into of itself, which is why everybody gets so excited and gets into collectors and has the shows and that type of thing. So I've just got a couple pictures here just to sort of entice you into buying a rose. Brighten up your around the house for the Memorial Day weekend. I just went through, we've got a phenomenal selection. We just restocked on roses this week.
Absolutely.
So we're chock-a-block full. And tell you the truth, with this kind of cool weather we've had, the blossoms are holding up nice. Plants are really looking super. So I just went around the camera and took pictures of a few of them that I thought were particularly nice. The All-American Magic, this kind of caught my eye. It's pretty dazzling in the color that's there. It was kind of neat when I was looking at this one. You'll see the color shift when it's in its full bloom like that. it gets mostly that yellow coloration. As the blossom matures, it starts fading more towards a pink. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Just watching as that flower goes from the bud to full open to fading, you'll see that color change there. So that's a nice hybrid tea that you might want to consider if you're looking for that pizzazz to add out there. Another one which I just thought was absolutely gorgeous, and I have to tell you, I don't really know my different varieties. There's over 3,000 of them. You have to go talk to the rose show guys to get all the details. I might just go around and say, wow, isn't that pretty? But the Tequila Sun Supreme there, again, you see those sort of soft tones of pink. I think that was a Floribunda, which gives you a spray of blossoms as opposed to that one big high-centered bloom. Chicago Peace, this is one coming up here that's very popular. We'll just move forward and take a look at the Chicago Peace there. Peace Rose, many people know the Peace Rose is probably the most popular and well-known of all the hybrid tea roses. It was introduced in the 1920s. This was a sport that was found off of a Peace Rose in Chicago. There's where the name comes from. It has a little more enriched tones in there of the pink that's in, but nice sturdy plant, you know, good foliage, beautiful flowers, nice disease resistance in there.
And a classic.
Yeah, so these are your classic roses, as Debbie was saying, nice for cut flowers. But the one that is most popular out there and everybody's planting are the knockout roses. Roses do require more care and more management in our climate. You know, the heat and humidity, they get insects and disease problems. So the knockout rose is a shrub type rose, just produces prolific amounts of color, much easier to care. And they have just sort of taken dominance in the landscape, and you see them all over the place. You can see in embankments like this for erosion control. You see them in shopping malls, shopping centers, home landscapes, you know, along median strips. It seems like every place you go now you're finding knockout roses in a range of different colors. And they are tough, durable, hardy plants, but they are not totally carefree.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to just touch a little bit on some pest problems out there that you may encounter. This is one that we've been getting a lot of showing up at the plant clinic right now. It's called a rose slug, and I have that one leaf that's turned upside down because if you can look really close, you gotta really zero in, there's this, looks kind of like a caterpillar in there that is extremely well camouflaged with the color of the leaf that's in there. So this rose slug, there are about 3 different species. Some of them chew on the top of the leaf surface. This is one that chews from the bottom, and it starts out as little tiny holes. Those holes expand, and next thing you know, the plant looks like it's like a piece of Swiss cheese. But you can never find who's doing it. But if you look around, you look really close, these guys, like I said, they start out only about 1/16 of an inch long. They mature to about 3/4 of an inch long, and that's who's actually doing the damage. The other problem that I see, and this is more and more even on the knockout roses, this is called Rosette virus. It's a viral infection which resides in the multiflora rose, the wild rose that grows along the roadside and such. There's a tiny little mite that feeds on the roses, the wild roses, and then they come over and they transmit the disease to our cultivated roses. Now I brought this beautiful sample in. I knew I was going to be talking about Rosette today, and just yesterday morning I had a customer brought this into the plant clinic. That gives you an idea what happened. This mite infects the plant, the growth gets all twisted and distorted like this. It starts producing a profuse amount of thorns that are on there, and it's just this abnormal growth. Once this gets into the plant, you pretty much have to destroy the plant. There's really no treatment for it, and so that we're seeing this happen more and more. Part of things because, of course, we're planting more and more roses. So some of these things are showing up. I still love the knockout rose. It's definitely tough, durable, prolific, all the things we look for. but you still need to monitor, watch it, and these are a couple problems we're seeing.
Absolutely, but for the rose slugs, there is a treatment for that.
There is, and now if I can,
let me see.
Well, be careful. That's got thorns all over it, Debbie. I know. I've stuck myself 3 times already with it.
Let's leave this here till the break.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to have a good pair of gloves when you're handling roses. So with that rose slug, if that's a problem, you can use either 7 or 8. These are 2 different insecticides. We'll keep that under control. They also control that mite that transmits the Rosette virus. So I'm just putting out there, keep an eye on your plants. If you see any of these things happen, you can always bring samples into the clinic. We'll confirm it, or you could probably easily recognize it now and realize either 7 or 8. They'll both do a good job. Try to get both the top and the bottom of the leaf. It really depends on you and getting thorough, complete coverage to get good results with it.
Okay, great. We're going to take a quick break and come back with some great color for this time of year. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and hope you're enjoying this wonderful Memorial Day weekend. A little cool, but bright and sunshiny, so it'll be beautiful. So now we're going to talk about some plants that are blooming. Now, you know, your spring flowering things are over, your azaleas, your dogwood, you know, the main dogwoods and that type thing, but there's some things that are coming right now.
That's not completely true.
Good. That's true. You're right.
That was my little bit of a teaser, but here we go. The first tree we're going to look at is a dogwood. But of course, what Debbie is saying is our native dogwoods have finished blooming. But this is the Kusa dogwood, an Asian species, which does flower later. They are in bloom right now. So this is a way to extend color of basically an extended spring season. So we have our native dogwoods flowering in April, and our Kusa dogwoods here flowering sort of in late May, sometimes even to early June. Thing is, the Kusa dogwood, it's a little bit of a different tree. You can see the form of it, a little more upright in its growth habit, later blooming. Flowers look a little bit different, but the Kusa dogwood is tough and durable. It's very insect and disease resistant, so it does well in these kind of harsher landscapes. So that's the Kusa dogwood in bloom now. But one of the things that's interesting, in part because of its popularity and durability, there are also some new varieties coming in to the marketplace. And anytime we can add interest to it, in this way I'm saying leaf color, I think that's a really good thing. Mm-hmm. So you've got a tree here that's got nice form to it, that's tough and durable. As it matures, the bark gets peeling, exfoliating, and now you can even get them with variegation in the leaf as well. So that's something to look for as far as you're looking for that kind of small, medium-sized tree to extend your spring season. Now another one that I wanted to talk about, and I thought I'd just go through a few trees here to begin with, is the Sweetbay Magnolia. This is a native species of magnolia, so it does well in our environment. It tends to actually prefer sort of moist, poorly drained areas, dense clay. Those are conditions that it's difficult to find plants that really thrive. So Sweetbay Magnolia thrives there. This is going to go, you know, probably a good 30 feet tall, 35 feet tall, so it's still considered a medium-sized tree. The foliage on it has a nice lustrous bright green color to it, and you can see the blossom on there. I took that picture about 4 days ago, so that gives you an idea. They're in bloom right now. It does look like that southern magnolia, but in a miniature form. That flower is probably only about 3 inches across. Mm-hmm. So it's not as bold and dramatic, but it's every bit as beautiful. And if you stick your nose in there, it's got a slight fragrance to it as well. So that might be another way to look at sort of extending the spring season, because we need to move beyond just, hey, you know, azaleas and dogwoods, as beautiful as they are, you know, that we don't, all that fizzles out, you know, by April, and here we are into May. We want things looking nice. So that's Sweetbay Magnolia. The next one I'll look at is a fringe tree. Now we do have a native fringe tree as well, but this Chinese fringe tree is the one we're going to talk about. Again, a little bit of like the dogwoods, this Chinese fringe tree, the flowers are a little different. They're a little denser, more compact. The tree itself is also a little denser and more compact. It's pretty tough and durable. Grows in, you know, full sun, part shade. Really a very carefree type of tree. You see the form on it there. They do tend to be this kind of multiple stem spreading type of really ornamental plant, kind of that large shrub look. Probably again here we're looking at about maybe 20 feet tall, 20 feet wide when it matures. So that's a Chinese fringe tree, and then I've got a close-up of the blossoms.
Oh, those are spectacular.
Yeah. And again, these are in bloom right now, fading. And you also see our native fringe tree, which is flowering right now. And again, the panicles of blooms are a little bit looser and more open. And then I think I have one more I wanted to show you here real quickly. We only have time to just briefly introduce you to these. You really need to come in the garden center, the nursery, to see them. The Japanese Snowbell, again, a form and shape kind of similar to the others we looked at. You know, the small, medium-sized tree. They can be pruned up to more of a central trunk or allowed to be multiple branch. Again, this flower, the picture I took there was taken earlier this week, so they're in bloom right now. And I love it when they're in the bud stage, those blossoms just look almost like a little pearl, and then they opened up to a nice, delicate white flower. Tough, durable, very easy, carefree. Super quick. I'm going to show.
Oh yeah, no, we're good.
Okay,
we're good.
I thought I would go.
Yeah.
I had to go to break.
Yeah.
Because I know I put too much in here, but I want to give you guys ideas of ways you can extend your spring color. Quick run through the shrub section. What you're looking at there is a hardy pomegranate. Pomegranates are marginal plants. They traditionally don't grow this far north because their lack of winter hardiness. But over the past several years, there have been a lot of new hybridization, introduction of plants that have improved cold hardiness. And pomegranate is, of course, it's native to parts of Persia. Traditionally, you know, it's been grown even as far north as maybe Richmond, but now we have some that are being even grown as far north as Philadelphia. So if you want to try something like this, this is a fruiting form. It will produce a fruit that you can eat, very distinctive. You can see orange blossom on there, does well in containers, but you will need to keep that in sort of protected, sheltered environment. And the little white blossom you can see kind of poking out of the corner of this screen, that is a snowflake viburnum. Again, it's a double file viburnum. The parent plant grows to be quite large, you know, 15, 20 feet tall and wide. This is a more compact one that's going to grow about 8 feet tall and wide. And you'll get a nice bloom right now, a little bit of sporadic color through the summer. And just behind it, to make a liar out of me, I wanted to show an azalea in bloom. There are early, mid-season, and late flowering varieties. You can have azaleas going all the way into June. This is a variety, it's called Joseph Hill. It's a low trailing type. It only grows to be about 1 foot tall, but it can weep and trail over a wall or even plant it as a ground cover.
That's part of the beauty of plants, that you can have color for long, long seasons. It's great. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we've got some planting and some pruning tips. So stay tuned. Okay, we're in transition season a little bit right now, so David's got some great tips for you.
Exactly. When I decided I want to talk about the summer garden, I didn't realize it'd be in the 40s. Right. And I'd be wearing my jacket and bundled
like
up.
Summer,
exactly.
Summer's unofficial start to summer.
But they say by the end of the week it's going to be 80 degrees.
I know. We'll be there.
Plus, so that's exactly what we need to do with gardening. Is we always need to be looking ahead and planning ahead, because you know summer's coming. It's going to get hot, and let's go ahead and get ready for that now. So one of the first things I want to do is start with a picture to kind of inspire us. We're looking at a picture now of the late summer in the garden. This is probably what the garden's going to look like more towards August, maybe early September time period. But to get to this kind of end result, to achieve this kind of a garden, you need to be thinking about it, preparing and planning for it right now. So that's sort of the lush look there of late summer. Now some of these plants, and talking a little bit about some of our perennials, in the background, the white flowers, you can see sedum. And in my next picture, I'm going to give even a close look at the Joe Pye weed or the Eupatorium. They're obviously still months away from flowering, but what I wanted to mention is these plants, they tend to get very tall, they get very leggy, and a lot of times by the time they reach their blooming size, we get into those late summer thunderstorms. The plants are a little top heavy, and sometimes they start to topple over. The next one I was looking at the picture here, the summer phlox. That's another good example of some of these perennials out there. So in terms of looking ahead, planning ahead, one of the things that I'm going to suggest that we could be doing right now in our gardens is going out and doing a little bit of pruning on here. So what I like to do is I go out and, like, I grow summer phlox. It's one of my favorite flowers. I just love it there in the garden. Because they get top heavy, and right when they start to flower, I'll lower the stem, maybe get a better look at it. When they start blooming and then the thunderstorms kick in, that's when it gets a little top heavy. So right now, this weekend, like if you got that extra day off, it's a good time to go out there and do a little pruning. What I found I like is I sort of vary my height on here. So I'll go in and I'll cut here, cut here, here, no set rule. I like a more naturalized look. So one of the things I do is I go in, cut these stems back to different lengths. It will flush out new growth. It delays the flowering by about 2 weeks or so, but then these flower heads are smaller, denser, the plant is sturdier. So you can do that with things like the phlox. I brought a chrysanthemum in here. Chrysanthemum, everybody knows. Chrysanthemum doesn't flower until July, but what a lot of people do, because they get very tall, they get very leggy, you can go in, again, give this guy just a haircut.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's say I go in and
It's like a bowl cut there.
Yeah, exactly. Just, again, it depends on what you want to look. Yeah, exactly. I give him like the bowl cut kind of look. And what will happen, this will sprout out, the plant's denser, it's fuller, it blooms a little bit later in the season. But it's a good thing to do because it prevents them from getting that tall, floppy growth. So again, it's totally optional. If you'd like your plants to grow tall and floppy, go ahead and let them grow tall and floppy. But if you don't, go out and do a little trimming and pruning this weekend. Now the other thing I wanted to mention is our summer times are tropical. It's hot, it's humid, the moisture from the rain showers and everything. We go in these tropical kind of heat waves, and so more and more and more people are planting tropical plants. And I think that's fantastic. I'm doing that in my own garden. So this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, again, I know it doesn't feel like tropical summer. But
it will get there, believe me.
But it will get there. So that's why I say we have things like the Mandevilla, which is so popular in containers for your deck or patio. We're really out of the cold weather of spring, maybe tomorrow. But you can safely put these out on your deck or patio now. So it's a nice time to do that. You can also plant them in the ground. I talk about cannas. This canna, which again, it gets these leaves, and they have all different ones. Green leaf, this burgundy leaf, multicolored leaves. These can grow to be 5, 6 feet tall, but the leaves have this dramatic look. They bloom for you in late summer. Really adds that kind of look of the tropics to you. They love the warmth and the sunshine and keep them moist.
Such a rich color on that one.
It is, and that's what I found. All the elephant ears, the cannas, even things like the hibiscus, these tropical plants, the one thing I'll say is you do have to kind of keep an eye on the watering. They're not drought tolerant. So you go out there and you kind of check them frequently, but if you keep them moist, once the heat kicks in, it's warm, it's moist, these things just take off. They grow like crazy.
That's great.
And then I've got a picture that shows you where we end up with as we look ahead into summer.
Get that lush garden.
So if that's the kind of look that you're after, you don't wait till August to think about that. You start on it this weekend.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got to take another quick break. When we come back, David's going to go over to our virtual garden and give you some great tips to keep your lawn in shape.
Well, happy Memorial Day, everybody. I hope you've got a little extra time this weekend to enjoy with your family, enjoy with your garden, and maybe have a little time to go out there and catch up on a few chores. So, I'm here talking about summer lawn care, but obviously it's still chilly out, still May, but the thing is we need to be thinking ahead, looking ahead, preparing ahead. That's what this is all about. So most of us are growing these fescue bluegrass lawns, which is terrific. They're loving life right now. They're cool season grasses, and when it's 65 to anywhere from 50, 65, 75 degrees, this is when life is grand for them. They're getting frequent rain showers, and I tell you, lawns are looking terrific right now. But the thing that happens is as the temperatures start to creep up, once we start going into 85, 90, 95, 100 degrees, as those temperatures start coming in, that's when the grass gets stressed. It's out of its comfort zone. Your turf gets stressed out, its growth slows down, it starts to thin out in its density, and then this is when all the problems start to incur. So we start seeing disease problems, and we'll kind of take a look into the future here. So when the grass is in that stressed condition, we see diseases. If we just move forward here. Things like the dollar spot, Rhizoctonia blight, or brown patches it's called, Pythium blight. All these diseases, what they do is they require warm temperatures and moist conditions. So we're really not dealing with these problems now, but as we go into June and July, that's when they encounter. Also, as your grass gets thin and it gets stressed out under the heat, it provides an opportunity for the summer annual weeds to grow in. And you start seeing weeds like the spotted spurge and the purslane. These are summer annual weeds, and as it gets hot, they're thriving. So right when your turf is getting stressed, these guys are thriving. And then, of course, that's also when the insect problems start to show up. So the grubs, for example, the beetles come out, they're flying around, they do their mating during summer, they do their egg laying kind of towards late July, and then we start seeing problems like this, if we move ahead, that are as a result of grub damage that occurs as we go into that late July, August, September time period. So that's kind of a depressing look to what's ahead. But the real thing that I want to emphasize is being a little more positive and upbeat on this is there's things that can happen right now over the next couple weeks to help to improve the condition of your lawn, to make sure your lawn is dense, healthy, vigorous, and in the best possible condition to withstand these stresses of summer. Probably the most important thing that you can do is with mowing of your grass. It's very important right now that you should be raising your mowing height. It should be at least 3 inches or taller. So when we say mowing heights of 2 to 3 inches, that's a range, so that means like, hey, when temperatures are cool, when conditions are great, maybe that grass will withstand a 2-inch cut, has a nice tidy look to it. But as we start progressing into summer, we need to raise that mowing height so we have more leaf surface. More leaf surface helps to shade and cool the surface of the soil. It allows the plant to develop a deeper root system and get prepared as we go into summer. We also want to make sure that our blades are sharp, and really we want to mow pretty frequently, so we're only taking a little bit of that grass blade, about a third at each cut, and try to avoid this drastic scalping of the lawn. So I know that's on your plans for the weekend to go out and mow the lawn, so let's do it right. Now, in addition to proper mowing, which like I said, I think is probably the single easiest and most important thing you can do, this is a good time that if you want to, you can make a light application of a fertilizer. The one I like to use is this Lawn Restore from a company called Ringer. Basically, it's an organic fertilizer, so it's slow release, very kind of low analysis. One of the things I think is great is that Lawn Restore is supplemented, or we might say fortified, with specific types of fungi that help to compete against and suppress the plant pathogens or the disease-causing fungi. So the whole idea is, I know I'm going into summer, the grass is going to be stressed. When it's warm and when it's moist, that's what promotes some of these disease problems. So I make just a very light, even just a half-rate application of this Lawn Restore. I'm simultaneously kind of reinvigorating the turf and helping to suppress disease problems at the same time. So that's another option that you have to consider. Now, we talked about, like I said, the mowing, maybe fertilizing. The other thing that happens, of course, is the summer weeds. I know many of you put down a weed preventer in spring. We apply weed preventer usually in March or April. Most of our weed preventers remain effective for about 12 weeks. So let's say even on the 1st of April, you put down a weed preventer, and that goes through April, May, June. By the time we start migrating into July, two things happen. One is the summer annual weeds, things like crabgrass and so on, they start to reach peak germination rates right at the same time your weed preventer is starting to degrade. And then as you go into late July, August, September, all the time we get people coming in with these weed problems and saying, "I put down a weed preventer," but they're not going to last the whole season. So if you have a history of those weed problems, maybe you want to consider doing another application of weed preventer like this Pruning. Again, maintaining a thick, dense lawn is your first line of defense. This is sort of our second line of defense. Okay, let's see what's next. Put a picture in here of the crabgrass and the Japanese stilt grass, because these are good examples of the summer annual weeds we've been talking about. So the thing is, making that application of Pruning now so that we don't encounter these. And they don't all germinate at one time. Actually, the cool temperatures, they're going to be germinating later in the season to make this even more important. And we follow up and maintain that weed prevention qualities. So that's insects. We covered diseases, we covered the weeds. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the insect problems that we can encounter. With turf, with lawns, we really have very few pest problems. The big guy out there is this Japanese beetle, grub, or white grub complex. And what you'll see down the counter, I've got the months down here. Right now, we're right here in this late May, early June time period. The grubs are in the soil, they're pupating, and then as we move into July and into the summer months, they emerge out as an adult. So already we're seeing mass chafers are out flying around as adults. You're just not aware of them because they're in the evening. They do their mating, they lay their eggs, and then they start doing their damage as we go into August and September. But if you have a history of these problems, there are things you can do right now to protect your lawn. And that would be to apply the season-long grub preventer. This is a product that needs to be put down before those eggs start to hatch. You apply it right now during the month of from May through June. If you put this down, it remains effective through the entire summer months. So that's just a few tips of things you can do to keep your lawn looking nice, looking great through the summer months, but there are things that you need to do now to get prepared for it. Okay, I'm going to go back to Debbie now. And how are we doing, Debbie?
Good, thank you. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take your phone calls. So if you have any questions, please give us a call, 703-387-1046. We'll talk to you in just a couple of minutes. Okay, it's time for phone calls. If you have any questions, give us a call, 703-387-1046. David, our first caller is Gretchen, who's calling from Forestville. Hi, Gretchen.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Great, and
doing
you?
This great.
Good. Love your program. Look at it every Saturday.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding a dogwood tree.
Okay.
The tree I've had for 40 plus years, unfortunately, has been cut down 3 times, mistakenly. However, it has come back beautifully. And this past September, it had blooms all over it in September. And this spring, it also had blooms profusely. Now it has grown. I mean, the leaves have come out. It's gorgeous. When can I prune it?
This is bizarre. I've never heard of a dogwood blooming in September.
Yes.
And then again next spring.
I was afraid it was going to die. I didn't know what was going on with it.
So
but it was an understory tree for years, but we had a lot of trees cut down that were around it. And maybe that was it. I don't know. But
right, that's my thing. So when you say it was cut down sort of like 3 times, so when was the last time it sort of got cut down accidentally?
It's probably been about 10 years.
Okay. I really don't know what's going on with your dogwood. It's flowering twice like that. That would be really, really nice to see that. Basically, to answer your question, to me, the very best time of year to prune dogwoods is in the winter when they're dormant.
Okay.
Because at that point, there's no sap flowing. You really get in and see the structure of the tree. It's easier to prune. That's your best option. Now, there might be times, like for example, even last week, I was out, or this week, a few days ago, I was pruning a dogwood tree for a friend of mine because guess what? Branches were coming over the driveway. They're blocking the entrance in and out of the garage. And we just made a decision, okay, hey, maybe this isn't the ideal, perfect time to prune it, but we're not going to go all summer long dealing with those overhanging branches. Okay. Concern is when you prune dogwoods now during the growing season, it kind of invites problems with the dogwood borer. which is why I would really prefer to hold off and do that in the winter time.
Okay, I can wait because it's behind my house, and the only thing it's blocking is a little path that I would go to do other things, but that's fine. I'll just wait until the winter.
Yeah, you will be cutting some flower buds off when you prune in the winter time, but to me that's secondary. I'd rather go ahead and sacrifice some flowers, even in interest of the overall health of the tree.
Okay, well that's great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for the call.
All righty, bye-bye.
Thanks. Have a great weekend. Okay, our next caller is Rob, who's calling from Arlington. Hi, Rob.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
Very well, and yourself?
Good, thanks.
Cool. Hey, I bought, it's funny, you mentioned knockout roses. I bought a few recently, and what I was going to do is I was going to put like a small garden hedge behind them, so then the flowers will be accentuated. So I did some research, and I saw that there were some hedges or some yews called like the Myers yew or the upright yew.
Right.
And then I saw something called the green spire euonymus. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yes.
And I'm wondering from a branch perspective, because like with Leland cypress, we all know when you get heavy rains or snows or ice, they tend to fall over. Is there one that's better than the other that I should be looking at?
Well, they're all, everything you talked about is a pretty durable, reliable plant. I have to say, I'm trying to think in my own mind pros and cons from a design perspective. I kind of like the idea of putting the yew because it's a dark green needled texture against the roses, which would be a lighter green broadleaf. So I think that the textural contrast is nice. The one thing I'll say is that yews are really sensitive to drainage. They like a very well-drained soil, whereas the roses, may need more frequent watering. So there's a little small bit of incompatibility there, something to think about. The euonymus would probably be more compatible in terms of its watering needs, but I don't think it's quite as attractive because they're so similar. The leaf size and texture is almost identical to that of the rose. So I would vote for the yew, but maybe just keep a little bit of a delicate balance there on the watering. Also, your knockout roses, keep in mind, they get quite large. They'll get 6-8 feet tall and overwhelm the hedge behind it. But you can manage that by pruning. You can cut them back heavily. You may also want to take a look at what are called drift roses. Drift roses are from the same producers as the knockout rose, but they're a little smaller and more compact.
Perfect. And do you recommend any one of the yews over the other, like an upright or the Myers yews or anything like that?
I think it really depends on the amount of space, the amount of room that you have. Again, I sort of visualize an upright yew, but if you have lots of room and there's no problem as far as space goes, then maybe some of the spreading yews would work for you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good luck with that. Nice plant choices.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your weekend. Okay, let's see. Brenda is calling from Chillum. Hi, Brenda.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Doing
and you?
just fine.
Good. I have a question about my lilac bush. I've had it planted in this certain spot for maybe 5 years.
Right.
This year, the blossoms were so light in color, you couldn't associate it with a lilac bush. Is there anything I can do to deepen the color of the blossoms? Is there something some type of feed I can put on it?
Well, this is kind of a little bit of trial and error, but I would try adding a little bit of lime to the soil.
Okay.
And when I said, lilacs do prefer a more alkaline soil pH, and it's possible that over time, if your soils become more acidic, then that can kind of indirectly start to influence the growth rate and flower color on there. But that's a little bit trial and error, but I would just go out, and if it's a pretty big plant, put like 2 or 3 cups of lime around the base, maybe even scratch that in the soil, see if that improves anything for the next spring.
Okay, thank you so much for your help. I really look forward to your program every week.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate your watching and giving us a call this morning.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more of your phone calls. Stay tuned. Okay, Memorial Day weekend. I love the patriotism this time of year. You got the flags everywhere. It's great.
We do. And we got to give recognition to Diane.
Absolutely.
She's the one that really thinks this thing through and makes us look good.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Okay, let's get back to our callers. Nancy is calling from Arlington. Hi, Nancy. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm fine.
Good. What's your question?
How are you?
Good.
Fantastic.
About 2 weeks ago, I put down some Scotch turf builder with weed control.
Right.
And it appears that it either burned the grass in some places. It's not everywhere, but certain areas I have long stretches of burnt grass that just turned brown.
Right.
And it's kind of mushy when I touch it. It's kind of mushy at the ground and the roots. Is that from the turf builder, you think?
Well, it sounds like you're saying these are kind of in long rows or streaks showing up in the lawn?
Yes.
Yeah, somehow when it was being applied, you must have like overlapped or doubled up and put a stronger than recommended rate down. Thing is, I had another customer call yesterday. The same thing had happened with her. I'm going to say a couple things. One is the fertilizers that we sell at our garden center are slow release fertilizers. Pretty much everything we have on our shelf is going to be 50% or more slow release. That's done, one, is because it reduces drastically the risk of you burning or damaging your grass. Mm-hmm. It allows that fertilizer to break down slowly and gradually over a long period of time. So this one of the things that happens when you're using those turf builder products. There's a greater risk of damaging your lawn if you just slightly overdo it. But the damage is done. The only thing you can do right now is, with plenty of watering, hope that some of those fertilizer salts leach out of the soil. If you don't see any signs of recovery in the next couple weeks, then you'll need to go out and basically reseed and repair those areas. And of course, summertime's a tough time of year to do it, but you may not have much choice.
So it's possible that grass can rejuvenate and come back?
It's possible. It's like it just all depends on how much fertilizer is put there, how severe the damage is. Was it severe enough to actually kill the roots or not? And only time will tell, and good watering. But I'm going to say if it was a couple weeks ago, and if you don't see any signs of regrowth within the next 2 weeks, then that grass is dead and you're going to need to repair it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry that happened.
No problem.
Good luck with that.
Release is the key.
Yeah.
Right.
Bye-bye.
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 Okay, let's see. Next we have Susie, who's calling from Hyattsville. Hi, Susie.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question. I have a lot of acorns that fall from my neighbor's trees into my yard, and I'm always pulling up, the acorns and raking them up. Last year I decided to let one of them grow. It's in a good spot, but it's about 3 feet tall. It has I still call it a stem because it's not very thick, but it has these white puffballs on it, on the stem, sort of like a dandelion puff.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I'm digging it up today. I don't see anybody living in it, insects, and I'm just curious what it is. Do you know?
When you say puffballs, but you don't think there's no insects living in there?
I don't see anybody in them. No, it looks like 3 dandelion puffballs lined up on the stem of this little tree I was going to grow.
Yeah, because they do get different, we call oak galls, and they are induced by insects. I mean, this is my best guess from your description.
Right.
There's sometimes they call it a sour, S-O-W-E-R-S, oak gall. You might even do a little Google search on it.
Yeah.
And it's a tiny, tiny little wasp that's only about the size of a gnat.
Ooh.
And they will lay their egg, usually into the leaves, but I'm thinking because this is such a young tree, maybe they did this on the stem. And then it induces that puffy cotton ball kind of looking growth.
Okay.
And in the very center of it, that egg will develop into larvae, but it's so small, or it probably hasn't even hatched, that you're just not able to see it. They're really not that damaging as a pest. I just look at it as kind of an oddity, kind of an interesting thing in the nature. And so you don't need necessarily do anything about it. But that's my best guess, and you might, like I say, if you just do a Google search, put in the sour oak gall and see if that looks familiar.
Okay, because I had a friend visiting. She said, that's the oddest little tree you have growing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It is. These things are big, they're dramatic. We get them in the clinic all the time, but really not that harmful.
I've never seen them. Okay, well, thanks so much, and have a safe memorial.
Okay, you too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's see. Sue is calling from Waldorf. Hi, Sue.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Doing fine.
Pretty good. I love your show.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We love hearing that.
My question is for David. David, you just told us about 3 things that we could do for our lawn to prevent disease, how to fertilize, and how to take care of insects.
Right.
Should I or can I do them all at the same time, or how should I apply the application?
All that can go down at the same time. It's just a matter of your choice. I'm going to say it needs to happen sometimes, really over the next couple weeks. So,
Sure.
I mean, if you wanted to knock it all out and put them down, it would be like 3 different applications.
Right.
I mean, it could be done the same day because you'll have different spreader settings, but you could go through and put down your weed preventer, you could put down the insect preventer, you could put down the fertilizer, 3 different trips over your lawn, but they could go down at the same time. All those products are best if they get watered in.
Right.
I don't know if there's any rain in our forecast, so that might mean if you can time it before a rain shower, that's nice. Otherwise, be prepared to turn the sprinkler on or water your lawn a little
Sure.
bit following application.
Great. David, I have one more quick question. Quick.
Sure.
My developer planted an infected tree right in front of my house. It has bore holes and, it's just a mess. My question is, when I take this tree out and have a new tree planted, do I need to put something in the soil in the spot where the new tree is going to go?
No, probably not. And I said because I don't know the exact specifics are there, but generally speaking, the borers do not live in the soil. They don't reside there. They don't contaminate the ground. Borers are basically different butterflies, moths, beetles. They fly in from surrounding areas and infect the tree. So just remove it, get the stump out of there, condition the soil, and plant whatever tree you'd like.
Thank you so much. We're sorry we've run out of time, but have a great weekend. And we'd like everybody to have a safe Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Next week, we will be, Peggy will be here. We'll be talking about favorite perennials. So thanks so much for all the tips.
Thanks. And try and make some time to come in and see us at the Garden Center.
Bye-bye.